Hi guys, welcome to our tutorial today. Last time we had created this simple program and we're just trying to play around with it and just see what we can get out of it. So today I'm going to, this tutorial will be basically just a recap of what we did last time, and in addition just to explain a few things and also show you around the Visual Studio environment. So first of all, as we said, we are actually using C# language here in Visual Studio, and we said that the code is executed sequentially. That is, the first line comes followed by the second one in that order, such that if you want to execute your program in a particular order, you have to write it in that very order. Now, I also mentioned that for this program to run, you always have to have what we call the main method, this one. And now this is the one that when we click on run, this method is the one that will be called, and everything that is in it will execute. Now, another thing that I need to let you know about the syntax is that we always write our statements, and to show the end of a statement we use a semicolon. As you can see here, every statement in C# ends with a semicolon. And then now we usually have in a typical program, the structure that we have, the references appear. We will get to know what that is in future, and then after the references we have the namespace, and then we have what we call a class, and then within the class is now where we have our functions, where we run our functions. So for now, just understand that we have the references. We can have more than one. Here we only have one, the 16, and then we have now the namespace, and then we have what we call a class. We will explain these things later in detail. And then we have now the function, and we can have more than one function. Now we will also talk about functions later in a later tutorial. The other thing that I also want to bring to your attention is the layout of Visual Studio. As you can see, it's a very powerful IDE, and there are so many components with it. But the ones that we'll be dealing with initially mostly is on this side. You can see something called the Solution Explorer, and in this Solution Explorer, this is where we have our files. Like in this case, in our application, we have only one file, that is program.cs, which is this one. Now .cs is an extension for C#. Now if we just you remember we saved our project on the desktop. So if we right click here and just select open containing folder, you can see that this is our file, our program file. And then we also have other files here. Now here in the project when you compile your project, you'll find that there are some files that are usually created that are meant to help you run the project, and so that is why we have these folders here that are meant for that purpose. As you can see, we have like a DLL file. This is basically where everything happens when you compile your project. And then the other thing is, you remember when we were creating the project, we have the solution. The solution itself is here. And then now, you remember when we were creating, we said we had the option of having the solution in the same folder as the project, so that would mean the solution would come here, but we didn't choose that, so it is outside the project folder, but this is the project folder. And so that's basically something about the layout. So here, what I'm saying is that here we will be showing all the files that will be related to our project. Of course, you can see there are some toolbars here that you can use to navigate. So for instance, there are files like if we go back there, you can see that there are other files here, but they are not shown here. So if I click this, it will toggle between showing all the files and the ones that have been included in the project. So like in our case, this one is the one that has been included, but by default, if I uncheck this, it will only show the one that is included in the project. So that is that about the layout. For now, that's what I want us to understand. And then the other thing that I also thought I should explain is now the building process. When we choose to run the app by default, it will always attempt to build first of all. Like when I run, the first thing that it will do is that it will start building the project before it runs. Once the build is complete is now when the project will run. So there we go. And then now I can do what I want to do. Now, it's not always that the build is successful, because when we are writing our code, sometimes we may have errors. For instance, if I forgot to put that semicolon there, you can see a red line there. So that is to show that there is an error with my code. And so if I try to build it, it will show me that there is one error, and it tells me that a semicolon is expected, and it will show me exactly where it's here. So I can put it, and then maybe I can choose to remove that. You can see there is another error, and the reason is that we are using keywords. If you are to use them, they have to be written exactly the way they are supposed to be written. And if I try to build, console does not contain a definition for that. And also another thing to note is that these are also case sensitive. So if I corrected it and put L, even if I've written the right word, as long as I have used the wrong case, it will still give me an error. It is not recognized. So if I try to build, I'm getting that error. There is no definition for that. So I have two options when I get such an error. I have the option of either just correcting it manually, or if I do this, there are some suggestions that it brings there, or show potential fixes. So when I click on it, it gives me the option, and so they're telling me to change this to right line. So if I just select it, there we go, and I can build the project and the build is successful. And the same happens even for running. If I run, I said it first of all attempts to build. It cannot run without building. So you can see it will give me that error. So if I say yes, it will run the previous version. It will not be running this version. It will be running the previous successful build. Yeah. But the other option is when it gives me the error, I say no, and then I look at the error, and then I come and correct it, and then I can run it successfully. Now another thing that I want to introduce today is variables. Now we have what we call variables. Variables are basically like, in simple terms, they are I would call them like, maybe think of a container that is holding something, a container that is holding your data. For instance, I have this hello world and I want to store it and refer to it later. So I can come up with a variable that will store this value hello world, and then I'll print that variable. Now another thing that we need to understand about variable is that there are several variable types. We have what we call string variables, and for today we are going to look at string variables and integer variables. In the next tutorial we will look at most of the remaining variables, but today, just for the sake of introduction, we'll look at string and integers. So a string variable is basically stores text or sentences or phrases, like now this one. An integer variable, as the name suggests, you expect that it will store integers, that is numbers like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. And so when we want to use a variable, the first thing that we need to do is that we need to either declare or define the variable. Now the way we define a variable is usually very simple. Like if it is a string variable, we'll just say string, and then we will give it a name. Now when we are giving a name to a variable, there are a number of factors that we need to consider. The first one is that the name is supposed to be unique. Like you cannot have two variables of the same name. The second thing is that a variable is it's actually case sensitive. The third thing about naming variables is that the variable, when you're naming a variable, you cannot use the inbuilt keywords. For instance, I cannot have a variable called string. It cannot work. It will give me an error. So if I do that, you can see it's the compiler is actually, the program is it's confused, doesn't know what I mean. So to avoid this kind of ambiguity, I'll just give it a different name. If I give it that, you can see it will accept. So say I want a variable called welcome text. Now there are also naming conventions for variables, but now the conventions don't really affect how the execution of that. For instance, if I choose, I can decide that for me, I want my variables to be in the title case, like that. It's just meant to help me organize my code better. I can choose to have them in lowercase, all of them, and probably put an underscore there. I can choose to have them in camel case, the way I'd done. But most important is that if I'm referring to this variable, I have to use it exactly the way it is, because the variables are also case sensitive. So now this one I have actually declared this variable. Now I want to use it, so I will say welcome text, then I assign it a value, and the value that I want to assign it is this text here. So I will assign it the text of hello world. And then I want to do away with this, but instead of it, I want to display that console dot line. So instead of what we had initially, where we were writing hello world inside here, the text, I'm just going to call this variable welcome text, like that. So like that, and then the others just remain as they are, and then I can run it. Now a shortcut for running, you can see it's there, hello world, press enter, the hello world is there, and then press enter to continue, and then read line. So I can press enter, then I can, did you see that? I can choose yes, like that. So that is one way of using it. Now I want to declare another variable, and the variable has to be declared before it is used. So I want to declare another variable, and this one will be an integer. Maybe I call it my number, and then I give it the value of 15. And then I come here and say console dot write line, and then I put my number there, like that. So we expect that it will print hello world, and then in another line it will print my number, which is 15. Before now it will print, in this case, because my number is coming before the welcome text, it will print my number, and then after that it will print welcome text, which is hello world. So if we run it, you can see it has printed 15, and then there is the hello world there. Now another thing that you need to know is that when we are declaring variables, we can actually declare all of them. You can bring this one up here. You can start by declaring them up there, and then after that we now start using them like that. So if we call them, if we run it, you can see that it is still the same. Press enter, press yes, and that is it. Another thing is that we can call this variable as many times as possible. For example, now you can see this one, we declared it and defined it at the same time for the integer, but we can still do it the way we did for this string value. So we can say my number like that, and then in the next line we assign the value. So it depends on you as an individual. So another the shortcut for running your application is just F5. F5, if you press F5 like that, your application will run. Now you can see it is still the same. Like that. And then another thing that we can also do, as I said, you can call like this text, this welcome text, as many times as possible. For example, after pressing enter, you want it to display hello world again, just write console dot write line, then welcome text. So you can do it as many times as you want. So if I run it, so we expect that when we press enter, it will show hello world again. You can see hello world, and then it asks the same in the next question. So like that. So basically that is about variables. And then another way about it is to go about it is sometimes you are declaring a variable and you don't want to specify the variable type. You know what variable the variable type that you want to use, but you don't want to specify it from the word go. So for instance, I can come here and just say variable. That means it can take either text or an integer, depending on what you want. But now in this case, I have to define it and declare it at the same time. So I say var, and then I say welcome text. And then I say is equals to hello world, like that. Oh sorry, this one is supposed to be welcome text. So you can see this one, it's still the same. This one is still this one is that. So if I run it, nothing much should change, as you can see. So press enter, do that, and there we are. So today that is what I wanted us to learn. Again, you can play around with this. As you can see, this was basically just an introduction, and so you can play around with it. You can write as many, you can add as many variables as possible. Now you maybe we can, I'll just illustrate. For example, I want to add another text variable. You can have as many as possible. Maybe I add another string here. Maybe call it goodbye text. And then I give it a text and I say thank you for your time. Have a good day. So I can decide that I want to show it at the end of my application. So I just come and say console .readline, then I say goodbye. Sorry, I meant right line here. And then I say goodbye text, like that. Then I can run my app. No, why that keeps popping up. So if I press enter there, and then I press this, I should expect to, if I press enter, I should expect to see the goodbye text. You can see it's here. Thank you for your time. Have a good day. So we can have as many as possible, and we can actually we can declare all the variables together. For example, now there is something called commenting, which I had not mentioned to you. Sometimes you've written this line of code, but you don't want it to show. So, but you don't want it to show in your program, but again, you also don't want to delete it. So we usually have what we call comments. In C# we denote comments by just before the beginning of the line we add a double / like that. You can see it becomes green. So any text that you write here won't really come up in your program. So if I run it, we don't expect to see press enter to continue. So as you can see, we just have the right line, my number has been displayed, and then welcome text is there, and then read line now, where it is waiting for me to give an input. So if I press enter, you can see now the hello world is there. Did you see? That is the welcome text. Did you see that? And then now it is waiting for me to input, and then there is that. But then I wanted to just comment this. Now another way of commenting, this is when you're commenting a single line. If you want to comment several lines, you have the option of either typing this in all the lines like that. That is when you're commenting multiple lines. So if I run, I should expect to see only my number, the welcome text, and goodbye text, like that. As you can see, that is the number, welcome text, then goodbye text. But another way of commenting is commenting multiple lines. You start by adding, you start by the / and then you put the asterisk, like that, and then you close by doing the same for all the lines that you want to comment. Now I come and I start with the asterisk, and then I put the /, so that means all these are commented. So I still have this one and this one and this one. So if I run it, that is what we have. Now normally the comments, they help in many ways, apart from just showing maybe disabling code that you're not using. Sometimes you want to use your comments to explain some code that you've written, maybe for the sake of another developer who will be working on the same code. So it's always good to comment and just explain what is happening. For example, here I can comment and say this will display my number, and then I can say here, maybe here we are declaring variables. So the comments won't affect your program like that. So another simple way of adding comments is to for instance, I can just highlight the lines that I want to comment. Now this is a shortcut for commenting the text. Then I press Control, hold the Control key, Control K, and then Control C, like that. That will comment all those lines at the same time. So those are some of the things that you can do with C#. And then to uncomment, I use Control K and then Control U, like that. So you can try it out. Now another thing that I wanted to let you know, and the reason why I was you in declaring these variables, you can actually declare more than one variable in the same line. For instance, I want to declare all the string variables. Let me comment this first. So I can say string welcome text, and then add another string goodbye text, like that. And then now after I've added I now come and assign them values. So for instance, I come and say now welcome text. Now I want to change this. We are not declaring them here, we've already declared them, so we just remove the declaration. Here we are only assigning them values, like that. So if we do that, you can see that our code is clean, there are no errors. So we can run it again, and you can see it is still the same, nothing has changed, like that. So you can declare as many variables as possible, and you can even initialize them from here. Like I can come and say hello world is a welcome text, so I just say I declare it, I initialize it from here, hello world, and then I delete this one, and then I come and take this and initialize it here, like that, and then I delete this. It will still be the same if I run it. Yeah, so That is now the beauty of programming, the fact that you can play around with your code the way you want and still be able to achieve what you want to achieve. So that was it for today's tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it, and please feel free to leave your feedback, and if you've not subscribed to our channel, please also subscribe, and also invite your friends to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and have a good day. Have a good day. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this video, kindly like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you in the next